I'm Marissa Darple, and this is Mark Weber and Mike Weber. They're both brothers and local businessmen. They grew up here in northern Kentucky. And they were born in Newport and also grew up in Highland Heights and Fort Thomas. Mark was born in 1950,
Right.
and Mike was born in 1952, making them part of the baby boomer generation. And they were both young teens when the Beatles first arrived into the music scene in 1964. They're here today to share their Beatlemania experience with us.
Good.
What do you remember about the Beatlemania experience? When did you first hear about the Beatles?
Well, Marissa, when I first heard about the Beatles, I was 13 years old in 1963, and it was in February. And it was a very different time because it was only months following the November assassination of John F. Kennedy.
That's right.
And everybody was pretty much in a somber mood. But one Friday afternoon in February, I remembered very distinctly, I was in the hallway, and it was in recess time, and one of the girls in the class came up to me. She says, "You have to watch the Ed Sullivan Show this coming Sunday night." And I was thinking, Ed Sullivan, that's for old people. I said, why in the world would somebody want to watch the Ed Sullivan Show? My grandma Stein watched the Ed Sullivan Show. And I said, well, okay, yeah, I'll do that. She says, look for, there's going to be a band that's going to be on. So look for this band, they're called the Beatles. I said, okay, and I did. I'm glad I did. And it was amazing how the Beatles took the country by storm at that time. And there were a lot of changes later on that went on culturally, and the long hair and the different way of thinking. It started what was called the English rock era, the invasion, the English invasion actually it was called. So it was just the start of a lot of many changes. Mm-hmm. And so that's when I first heard about the Beatles and saw the Beatles. And actually, Ed Sullivan had them on not for just once, but another Sunday following, and I think there was even a third Sunday where they played. But I'm not sure about that, but it took the country by storm, especially kids our age.
Sure did. I was 11 years of age, and same thing. That was my first recollection of the Beatles. Was on the Ed Sullivan Show. And they came in the middle of, Mark also was mentioning the British invasion, where we had the Jersey Beat, and the other groups before the Beatles, such as the Dave Clark Five. Remember the Dave Clark Five?
Oh yeah, Dave Clark Five.
And Herman's Hermits. Yeah. And these folks, and they were
Rolling Stones.
The Stones, that's right, the Stones. Yep. And so they kind of came along in the middle of that era. But what made them, I think, distinctively different was their physical appearance. They had that mop top. They called the mop top at that time, which was a full head of hair and extremely long hair relative to the standards back in '63.
Yeah, that was definitely so.
Yeah. But that's right. You know, Mark just made a good point there. I never thought, and it kind of brings back some memories here. That's true. After the assassination of John Kennedy, and amongst us baby boom generation, was a very somber time. But it seems like they came right on the scene when he also, John uplifted the spirit of that baby boom generation by his famous speech of, you know, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. So it got caught up in the whole Peace Corps movement and the Beatles, and it was a very much more, like a friendly, more society, well, more open-minded society. But yeah, they seemed like they were an inflection point of rock and roll that took it to a new level.
Yeah, and the way they evolved is McCartney and John Lennon, they were friends when they were kids, when they were 13, 12, 13, actually even younger than that. And they played together, and then the Beatles originated out of a place called The Cave, which is a club where they would play. And they originated as a group in Liverpool, England, in The Cave. And then Ringo Starr came on later. He was the last and fourth Beatle to join the group. And they toured after the Cave, and during the Cave they toured Germany a lot. And right there after their German tours, when Ed Sullivan recognized them, and they came over, and in February, that month of February, and there was a guy by the name, remember a guy by the name of Murray the K? They called
Sure
him
did.
the fifth Beatle.
The fifth Beatle.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
Radio announcer.
exactly.
Yeah, DJ.
And,
Yeah.
and the crowds were just amazing. I mean, no one could get enough of the Beatles. Anytime they landed, when they landed in New York, the first time they landed by New York, they were just amazed. They couldn't believe what type of reception they were getting. They were just throngs of kids, and it was just unbelievable.
And the hysteria, the more so from the females, they were just so hysteric over their physical appearance because of their hairdress, and it was just they were the noise level. Like even when they played in Shea Stadium, you couldn't even hear them play because of the screaming and the passing out. They were carrying young ladies out in stretchers.
Yeah, they were, and
So
and the idea that Ed Sullivan really liked the Beatles because they did what he requested, and they wore suits and ties, and they were dressed neatly, and he was really taken by them, more so than I think than any other band. And that's why, in my opinion, like we were talking before,
I like Jim Morrison.
yeah, I'm a little biased because they were my favorite rock band because they were my first, really.
Yeah,
and
I was the first. That's
and
right.
Elvis Presley, I mean, he was big charts back then, and they just knocked him right off the charts, and it was just Elvis took it rough. He took it,
And
real
so
rough.
did the Beach Boys.
Yeah, Beach
They really
Boys
set
as
the
well.
Beach Boys back
Yeah.
also.
Yeah, the California.
Now, is the success or the fame of the Beatles ever exaggerated? Has it gotten exaggerated over the years?
You know, that's probably one of the better debates because they were credited with leading the sexual social revolution in our age group. It was a debate between did they actually lead the revolution or they just comment on it along the way. So we could sit here and discuss that for days on end. But that was always a hot topic. I really believe that they were kind of commentators along the way.
Yeah.
And
And the LSD and the drug movement too. They were
right.
They got credit for that a lot of times, and and that wasn't the best part about the Beatles. But that's the way it evolved back in the '60s and the '70s.
Mark's referring to was this is the inflection point of the Beatles, and this album came out in '67.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album, and it's when they rotated more from a rock and roll band into a psychedelic. Yes, they were kind of followers of Timothy Leary.
Yeah. Timothy Leary.
Tune in, turn on, and drop out.
Yeah.
And it was a drug-induced. Sad to say, a drug-induced kind of a mindset culture
Excuse me.
that seemed to kind of follow the rock and roll psychedelic wave in the
Now-
mid-'60s on.
Do you think that they felt like they needed these drugs to make better music?
I don't think they really. I think they took the drugs. Like it goes back. If you look at from Elvis Presley to Jerry Lee Lewis when they were on the road, Johnny Cash, when they were on the road, they had to take a lot of uppers and to keep them going for the
Keep
demand,
them awake
the
and
demanding
energized
schedule.
for next performance?
Exactly. And they take uppers to get them going, I guess, and downers to get to sleep, and they were just on a maze of drugs, 24/7.
Which is
As
a
we
bad
both
thing,
know,
of
it
course,
seems
you
like
never-
it took after,
Yeah.
destroyed a lot of talent, like
It did.
Elvis Presley,
It did.
like Jim Morrison of the Doors, and a lot of them.
Yeah. Judy Garland and so forth,
Yeah.
so on. It's terrible. But the thing
Not
is
even in
too,
music, but also in the acting, right?
when they put out quality music, they did it. There's a lot of changes they brought to the music, like synthesizers and different sound effects and electric guitar itself.
Yeah.
These
Oh,
were all
sorry.
kind of like new innovations in music. And then
Of course,
They
that was
were
pretty much Phil Spector, The
Yeah.
Wall of Sound,
Yeah,
and Carole King
right.
was as the artist. But you're right. They introduced that whole new genre of.
And yeah, and they did the music for probably one of the first music videos in Help, and as far as putting music to video, and so they were pretty much they're pioneers in a lot of different ways.
Well, thank you for that, boys. Thank you very much.
You're quite
We
welcome.
learned a lot. Thank you for being here with us today and letting us all
Sorry.
know about what really happened all that time ago with the Beatles and the fame. Thank you.
Thank you.